Okay, so the plan is I want to make my own doors and drawers for IKEA cabinets. So how big are they going to be? I figured the simplest thing to do was to buy some actual IKEA doors. And so, as I've mentioned before, we are starting with a pantry. That's my practice piece that I'm testing everything out on. At the time of filming, I'm just about done that. But anyways, we ordered the pantry and we ordered it with doors and drawers, but I bought like practically the cheapest ones they are. They're just plain old ugly slabs. And that gave me something to measure. So I've got the door, I know where the holes are for the hinges, so I can transfer that to mine. And I know the dimensions, and the key dimension to remember is 1/8 of an inch. Because I found that on a 15 by 30 inch drawer, the drawer front is 29 7/8 and 14 7/8. So 1/8 of an inch less than the dimension of the piece. And approximately, it's not perfectly, so it's actually kind of a generous cut. So I then made my own drawer fronts. These are out of cherry, solid cherry, and this is for a 10 by 30 drawer, and so it's 29 7/8 and 9 7/8, and usually I just sort of nudge it a bit, so it's maybe on the plus side of the 7/8. And the other thing I did is so this is the biggest drawer they have, the 15-inch drawer, and I got this one, and it's got the 6 sets of holes that they need, and I checked, and on the 5-inch drawer, these 2 bottom holes are all they have, and they're in the same position. And these are approximately a 4 or 5 millimeter drill bit, which is pretty much a 3/16 drill bit, which I have several of those, and I drilled all the way through. I took it over to the drill press, and I just drilled these holes all the way through, and then I made myself a little jig like this. So this is, here we go, here's the holes on the board, and this jig lines up here so it locks into place on the corner, and it's got all the holes that I need. And then it's reversible, so I just take this jig and then I flip it over, and then I can do the other holes. And right now, I'm just doing a few drawers on my test piece. If I were doing a production line, you'd probably want to work something out a little bit more automated. Right now, I'm taking this jig and I'm taking a 3/16 bit, lining this up. This is a brad point bit, and I'm using this to just tap it with a hammer so I can mark all the spots where I need to drill. So, I thought about just drilling freehand using the jig, but this is just plywood, and I'm worried about these holes getting chewed up with use and becoming less accurate. Take it over to the drill press, and I drill the holes just by lining up the points in the drill press with the holes that I've made. It's probably not 100% accurate, but it's at least 99% accurate. I don't know, I'm just making up statistics. 98% of statistics are made up. Anyways, you'd want some sort of a quicker and more accurate jig if you were doing dozens and dozens of drawers, because error is going to creep in. Right now I'm just doing 3 drawers, so I'm just doing it manually. When I do the whole cabinet, when I do the whole kitchen, I'll probably come up with something else. Doors are going to be the same sort of thing. I'm going to take the measurements off the back, and I will be drilling the 32 millimeter holes for the cup hinges. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to drill the little screw holes on either side, or if I'm just going to drill those as I mount the hinges, because I think really the cup is the main thing and the other part doesn't really matter. Those are there's my door, by the way. Solid cherry side, 1/4 inch cherry panel. Kind of the modification of the John Heiss style. I use dowels to connect my pieces here, and then I rabbet the inside, square up the corner, fit in the plywood panel, and glue it into place. Not bothering with floating panels or solid wood panels. I We like a minimalist shaker style, so yeah, plywood panel, solid cherry sides, and yeah, you can glue plywood into place. So for the door hinges, I made a jig similar to the one I made for the drawers, and yeah, forget what I said earlier about not needing these extra 2 holes, because you do, because IKEA supplies these Blum hinges, and they have these little registration bumps that stick out, so they don't actually put any screws in those holes, and so yeah, you need those little holes. So like the drawer jig, this is reversible, so I can use it at the top of the door or at the bottom of the door. And again, use it to mark the holes where you're going. I ended up buying this, I needed a new drill anyway, so I ended up buying this Craig jig, which allows me to set the depth. So I was actually using 2 jigs for this. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it when I do all the doors, but this worked well. Not sponsored, but anyways. So yeah, there we go. And then you can just take your hinge and pop it in, and these are completely toolless, so you just snap down. These have these little bars on the side which spread out when you clamp it down, and that's how the hinge is held in place. So once I have all the holes drilled, I just bring this upstairs and you assemble the IKEA drawer just like you would any other IKEA drawer. The one thing that I've noticed on the first drawer that I tried is that I'm using cherry. It seems to be a little bit harder, so just getting the screw in is a little bit more effort than it is on the standard sort of MDF press board that the IKEA drawers normally use. Yeah, that was an oops. That previous scene is what happens when you don't quite read the instructions properly. Turns out that on the bottom drawers, the hardware is attached differently than on the upper drawers in the cabinet. Once I got that sorted out, as you can see, all these drawers just work perfectly. Next step is to get the hardware attached. To finish off the doors and the drawers, I got 2 more jigs for mounting the hardware. So these are a couple of very simple jigs. On this jig, the hardware tells you where your center mounts are. So I drill a couple of holes centered on the jig, and it's centered in the jig too. So I've got the mark here for center, so when I'm attaching this to the drawer, I find the center of the drawer, I clamp, and then I drill. It's whatever spacing you want from the top. I'm planning to center mine on the 5.5 inch mark, and for the 10-inch drawers I'm going to keep the same spacing, so it's going to be 2.5 inches from the top. So you clamp this onto your drawer and you drill in, and that's all there is to it. The door is the same kind of idea, except this jig is reversible so that you can do it on one drawer. You can do it on one door, and then you can flip it over and put it on the other door. I've got 2.5 inch rails on mine, so I've got it centered at I've got it 1.25 inches in, so it'll be centered on the rails, and you just pick whatever spacing you like to measure up from the bottom, and that's really all there is to it. Very simple jig. And that's the handles. So that's how I attached my own custom doors and custom drawers to my IKEA cabinet. I still got a lot more to do on my kitchen. Make sure you stick around, check out some of my other videos. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.